I'm Sophie Bradford and I spent 15 years being my family's biggest embarrassment. When my mother hired a private investigator to prove I was faking poverty to avoid contributing to the family, she accidentally hired the one person thorough enough to uncover that I wasn't the fraud in our family. This is the story of how my mother's attempt to humiliate me became her own unraveling. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You're not going to want to miss what happened next. My sister Victoria was everything my parents wanted. Married at 25 to Bradley Whitmore. Old money, impeccable connections, a trust fund that could fund a small country. They lived in a Georgian mansion in Connecticut, threw charity galas, appeared in society pages. Victoria chaired 3 nonprofit boards, none of which required her to actually work. I was the disappointment who chose trade school over real college. That's what my mother called MI. Trade school. Sophie's doing her little computer thing, Mom would say at country club lunches, her voice dripping with the kind of pity usually reserved for people with terminal diagnoses. We tried to steer her toward something more appropriate, but she's always been stubborn. What she meant, I'd turned down Princeton, where both my parents went, for MIT's computer science program. I'd declined to join the junior league. I'd moved to San Francisco instead of staying in Boston. I'd committed the cardinal sin of choosing passion over prestige. My older brother Harrison was the acceptable middle child. Harvard Law, partnership track at a white shoe firm, married to a woman whose family tree had more branches than most forests. He lived in a brownstone in Beacon Hill and played golf with judges. And then there was me. MIT graduate, moved to Silicon Valley, worked at tech startups that my family had never heard of and wouldn't understand if I explained them. I lived in what my mother called, that dreadful little apartment in Mountain View. I drove a 7-year-old Subaru. I wore jeans and hoodies to family events. Sophie, darling, when are you going to get a real job? My mother would ask at every family gathering, her voice honeyed with concern that felt more like condescension. I have a real job, Mom. You know what I mean. Something stable. Something with benefits. Something you can tell people about without embarrassment. What they didn't know, I was the founder and CEO of Quantum Edge Analytics. We'd started 11 years ago. Me and 2 MIT classmates, Dev Patel and Emma Richardson. We developed machine learning algorithms that could predict market trends with unprecedented accuracy. Not just stock markets. Everything. Consumer behavior, supply chain disruptions, economic indicators, election outcomes. We'd started by selling our predictions to a few hedge funds. They made money. They told their friends. Within 3 years, we had 75 clients paying between $500,000 and $3 million annually for access to our platform. By year 5, we'd expanded into proprietary trading. We weren't just predicting the market, we were playing it. Our algorithms were generating returns that made traditional fund managers weep. By year 8, we'd been acquired by a major financial institution for $420 million. I retained a 40% stake in full operational control as CEO. My personal payout, $168 million. Current net worth, $180 million, give or take a few million depending on market conditions. I'd never told my family any of this. Why? Because I needed to know who they were when they thought I was worthless. I needed to see if they could love Sophie the person, not Sophie the asset. I got my answer years ago, but I kept watching. Kept documenting. Kept building. I lived in a modest apartment because I was barely home. I worked 80-hour weeks. I drove a Subaru because I didn't care about cars. I wore hoodies because they were comfortable and I wasn't trying to impress anyone. At family gatherings, Victoria would hold court in designer dresses, discussing her latest charity event or renovation project. Harrison would talk about his cases, name-dropping clients and judges. My parents would beam with pride. Then they'd turn to me. And Sophie, how's the computer job? Good. Still at that startup? What was it called again? I'm doing fine, Mom. She won't even tell us the name of her company. My mother would laugh to her friends. So secretive. I think she's embarrassed. Meanwhile, Quantum Edge had just been profiled in the Wall Street Journal. Our algorithms had predicted 3 major market corrections with 94% accuracy. We'd been approached by 5 governments wanting to license our technology. Forbes had asked to interview me for their Billionaire in Training series. I'd declined. I wasn't ready. My business partners knew about my family situation. Dev thought I was crazy. Sophie, why do you keep going to these events? They treat you like you're selling insurance. Because I need to document who they really are, I'd said. And I think I'm about to find out just how far they'll go. The breaking point came in October, during what my mother called the incident at the Pembroke wedding. Victoria's friend Charlotte was getting married at an estate in the Berkshires. 300 guests, orchestras, champagne that cost more per bottle than most people's car payments. The Bradford family was expected to attend in force, and look successful doing it. I flew in from San Francisco wearing a simple black dress I'd bought off the rack. Victoria wore Chanel. Harrison's wife wore something with a designer name I didn't recognize. My mother wore vintage Dior and enough diamonds to fund a small school district. At the reception, I sat at the family table quietly eating overpriced food and checking my phone. We just closed a deal with a major bank, $8 million annual contract. Dev was texting me updates. My mother noticed. Sophie, put that phone away. It's rude. It's a work emergency. What kind of emergency could you possibly have? Victoria laughed, her voice carrying to the nearby tables. Are the computers broken? Harrison smirked. Sophie, you're not performing emergency IT support at a wedding. It's not IT support. Whatever it is, it can wait, my mother said firmly. This is a social event. Act accordingly. I put my phone away. 20 minutes later, Charlotte's father gave a speech about his daughter's success as an art gallery curator. She built something from nothing, he said proudly. That's real achievement. My mother leaned over to whisper loud enough for the table to hear. That's what real success looks like. Building something respectable. I said nothing. After the wedding, my mother called an emergency family meeting. Sophie, we need to discuss your future. We gathered at my parents' Beacon Hill townhouse, a 4-story brick building worth $8 million that had been in my father's family for 3 generations. I sat in the drawing room that probably cost more to decorate than most people's houses. My mother stood, hands clasped, wearing her, "I'm concerned about you," expression that I'd learned to recognize as prelude to judgment. Sophie, darling, we're worried about you. I'm fine. You're 35 years old. You're still working at some unnamed startup doing technology work that you can't even explain. You live in a tiny apartment. You drive a car that's falling apart. You dress like a college student. Victoria chimed in. Sophie, we just want you to be successful. We want you to have what we have. And what's that? Stability. Status. A life you can be proud of. I am proud of my life. My mother's expression hardened. Then why won't you tell us anything about it? Why all the secrecy? Because you wouldn't understand. Try us, Harrison said, his lawyer voice emerging, the tone that said he was building a case. I work in predictive analytics. Machine learning algorithms for financial forecasting. Blank stares. I told you you wouldn't understand. My mother sat down heavily. Sophie, I'm going to be blunt. We think you're lying about your career. We think you're actually struggling, maybe even unemployed, and you're too ashamed to tell us. Why would you think that? Because you live like you have no money. Victoria exploded. You won't buy nice clothes, you won't upgrade your car, you won't even go to a proper salon. Either you're broke or you're being deliberately spiteful. Spiteful about what? About not being like us, my mother said quietly. About not having what Victoria has. What Harrison has. We think you're punishing us by pretending to be poor when you could be asking for help. The logic was so twisted I almost laughed. You think I'm faking poverty to punish you? What other explanation is there? My father spoke for the first time. He'd been silent throughout, but now his voice carried the weight of disappointment. You have a degree from MIT. You should be doing better than this. Unless you're not and you're lying about having a job at all. I have a job. Prove it, Victoria demanded. Show us a pay stub. Show us your company badge. Show us anything that proves you're actually employed. I could have pulled up Quantum Edge's website on my phone. Could have shown them the Wall Street Journal article. Could have logged into my bank account and let them see the balance. But I didn't. Because I realized in that moment that they didn't want proof I was successful. They wanted proof I was failing. No, I said simply. See. Victoria turned to my parents. She can't prove it because she's lying. My mother pulled out her phone and made a call. Yes, this is Amanda Bradford. I'd like to schedule a consultation. Yes, a comprehensive background check. My daughter. I need to know the truth about her employment and finances. She hung up. I've hired a private investigator. If you won't be honest with us, we'll find out the truth ourselves. You hired a PI to investigate me? We need to know what's really going on, Sophie. We need to know if you need help or if you've been lying to us for years. Her voice took on a righteous tone. Either way, we'll finally have the truth. And when will this investigator present his findings? Christmas dinner. Here. In front of the whole family. Extended relatives, everyone. No more secrets. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. I left Boston the next morning and flew back to San Francisco. I went straight to Quantum Edge headquarters. A stunning office building in Soma that we'd purchased 2 years ago for $45 million. Dev and Emma met me in the conference room. Your family did what? Emma stared at me in disbelief. Hired a private investigator to prove I'm either unemployed or lying about my career. Dev started laughing. Then stopped when he saw my face. You're serious? Completely. They think I'm faking poverty to punish them for being successful. Sophie, Emma said carefully, when this investigator looks into your background, he's going to find Quantum Edge. He's going to find the acquisition. He's going to find your net worth. I know. And I'm going to let him. In fact, I'm going to help him. I called our head of legal, Patricia Chin. Patricia, I need you to prepare a complete financial disclosure package. Everything about Quantum Edge, the acquisition, my personal holdings. I want it comprehensive and unquestionable. Why? Because my family hired a PI to investigate me and I want him to find the truth. All of it. Next, I researched the investigator my mother hired. Robert Kane from Kane Investigative Services. Former FBI, 25 years of experience, reputation for being thorough to the point of obsessive. Perfect. I called his office. Mr. Kane, this is Sophie Bradford. You were hired by my mother to investigate me. Pause. Ms. Bradford, I can't discuss ongoing investigations with subjects. I'm not asking you to discuss it. I'm calling to offer full cooperation. I'll provide complete access to my employment records, financial documents, anything you need. I want your report to be absolutely accurate. Longer pause. Why would you do that? Because I have nothing to hide. And I think your investigation is going to find significantly more than my mother expects. Miss Bradford, will you meet with me? I'll bring documentation. You can verify everything independently. We met at a coffee shop in Boston 2 weeks later. I brought Patricia and a briefcase full of documents. Kane studied me across the table. In 25 years, I've never had a subject volunteer to help me investigate them. I'm not a typical subject. I slid the briefcase toward him. Complete employment history, financial statements, corporate documentation for Quantum Edge Analytics, acquisition agreements, tax returns for the past 10 years. Everything. He opened the briefcase slowly like it might explode. He pulled out the first document, Quantum Edge's most recent financial statement showing $147 million in annual revenue. His eyebrows rose. You're the CEO of this company? Founder and CEO. I own 40% of it. We were acquired 3 years ago for $420 million. My personal payout was $168 million. Current net worth approximately $180 million. He looked up sharply. Your mother thinks you're unemployed. My mother thinks I'm either unemployed or working some entry-level tech support job. She hired you to prove I'm a liar and a failure. Kane leaned back, processing. Why have you hidden this from them? Because I needed to know who they were when they thought I was worthless. And now I know. I met his eyes. Mr. Kane, if you're thorough, and I suspect you are, you'll do background checks on my entire family as part of your due diligence. Standard practice when investigating someone's financial situation. That would be standard, yes. Then I should tell you something. My family's finances have never made sense to me. My sister doesn't work but lives like she's independently wealthy. My parents' lifestyle exceeds their known income sources. I've always wondered where the money comes from. You think they're hiding something? I think if you look closely enough, you'll find more than just my secret success. I stood. Be thorough, Mr. Kane. Find everything. The truth, whatever it is, needs to come out. Over the next 6 weeks, Kane investigated. He called me twice with follow-up questions. He verified every document I'd provided. He interviewed people I'd worked with, clients I'd served, professors from MIT who remembered me. And then 3 weeks before Christmas he called. Miss Bradford, we need to meet. In person. With your attorney. Patricia and I met him at his office. He had 3 thick files on his desk and an expression that mixed professional neutrality with something that looked like disgust. I've completed my investigation, he said. Miss Bradford, everything you told me checks out. You are indeed the founder and CEO of Quantum Edge Analytics. Your net worth is approximately $180 million. Your success has been extraordinary and completely legitimate. Thank you. However, he picked up the second file. Per standard investigative protocol, I conducted financial background checks on your immediate family members. Ms. Bradford, your family has significant financial irregularities. Patricia leaned forward. What kind of irregularities? Kane opened the file. Your sister Victoria and her husband Bradley Whitmore live well beyond their reported income. Mr. Whitmore's trust fund generates approximately $400,000 annually. Their lifestyle costs approximately $2.3 million per year. The difference is being funded by systematic tax fraud. He pulled out documents. They've been claiming false business expenses, hiding rental income from properties they own, underreporting gift income. The discrepancy totals approximately $3.7 million over 8 years. My stomach dropped. What else? Your brother Harrison and his wife Emily are engaged in a different scheme. Harrison's law firm handles estate planning for wealthy clients. Over the past 6 years, he's redirected approximately $2.1 million from client accounts into accounts he controls. It's sophisticated, small amounts from large estates, difficult to detect unless you're looking for it. That's embezzlement. Yes. Kane opened the third file. His voice became quieter. Your parents, Amanda and Richard Bradford. This is the most extensive. They own multiple properties that generate rental income. They've been reporting these properties as personal residences to avoid taxes on the rental income. Additionally, they've been writing off personal expenses as business expenses through a shell corporation. The total tax evasion is approximately $1.4 million over 10 years. I felt cold. My entire family is committing financial crimes? Not your entire family. You're clean. But yes, Victoria, Harrison, and your parents have all engaged in substantial financial fraud. Combined total, approximately $7.2 million in tax evasion, fraud, and embezzlement. What happens now? I'm required to report this to the IRS and relevant law enforcement. These are federal crimes, Ms. Bradford. Your family is going to be investigated, audited, and likely prosecuted. Patricia spoke carefully. Mr. Kane, when will you be presenting these findings to Mrs. Bradford? She requested a presentation at Christmas dinner. December 25th, in front of extended family. I've been instructed to present everything I found. He looked at me. Miss Bradford, I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted. Actually, I said quietly, it's exactly what I needed. The truth, whatever it cost. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to set boundaries with toxic family, because what happened next changed everything. Christmas morning in Boston was picture perfect. Snow falling gently, the Beacon Hill townhouse decorated like a Hallmark movie, the smell of expensive food being prepared by the catering company my mother had hired. I arrived at 11 wearing a tailored black suit, the first time my family had seen me in professional clothing. I pulled up in my Subaru, parked behind Victoria's Mercedes and Harrison's BMW. Patricia arrived separately, dressed in her lawyer armor. We'd coordinated carefully. The house was full. Extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins. Family friends. People from my parents' country club. My mother had invited everyone she could think of to witness what she believed would be my humiliation. Sophie. My mother kissed my cheek, her smile bright and sharp. So glad you could make it. And you brought a guest. My attorney, Patricia Chin. My mother's smile faltered slightly. Why would you need an attorney for Christmas dinner? Mr. Kane is presenting a report about my finances. It seemed prudent. Victoria appeared in a dress that probably cost more than my Subaru. Oh, Sophie, are you really bringing a lawyer? That's so dramatic. We'll see. Robert Kane was already there, sitting in the library with his laptop and 3 sealed files. He nodded at me but said nothing. At 1 o'clock, my mother clinked her crystal champagne flute. Everyone, if you could gather in the living room, please. We have some family business to address before dinner. The living room was massive. 25 people fit comfortably. The family sat on the elegant furniture. Friends and extended relatives stood around the edges, curious and eager. My mother stood in front of the fireplace like she was giving a TED Talk. Thank you all for being here. As many of you know, we've been concerned about Sophie for quite some time. All eyes turned to me. I sat calmly, hands folded. Sophie has been very secretive about her career. She lives modestly, refuses to discuss her finances, and has been evasive about her employment. We worried that she might be struggling, or worse, lying about having a career at all. Murmurs of concern and judgment rippled through the room. So we did what any concerned family would do. We hired a professional investigator. She gestured to Kane. Robert Kane is one of the most respected private investigators in New England. We asked him to conduct a comprehensive background check on Sophie, to find out the truth about her career, her finances, her life. My father stood beside her. We love Sophie, but we needed to know if she needed help, or if she's been deceiving us. Victoria added, "This report will finally show everyone who Sophie really is. No more secrets." Kane stood slowly, picking up his laptop and the 3 files. "Mrs. Bradford, before I begin, I need to clarify the scope of my investigation. You asked me to investigate Sophie's financial and employment status. I did that. But I also conducted standard due diligence background checks on all relevant parties. That's comprehensive investigative practice." My mother frowned. "Relevant parties? Your family. When investigating someone's finances, it's standard to examine family financial history, connections, and relationships that might impact the subject's economic status." "Yes, fine, whatever." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Just tell us about Sophie." Kane opened his laptop and pulled up his first document. Report 1. Sophie Elizabeth Bradford Financial and Employment Background. The room went silent. Ms. Bradford holds a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from MIT, graduated summa cum laude. Following graduation, she co-founded Quantum Edge Analytics, a predictive analytics firm specializing in machine learning algorithms for financial forecasting. My mother's confident smile started to waver. Over 11 years, Quantum Edge grew to 75 clients, including major hedge funds, financial institutions, and government agencies. Annual revenue at time of acquisition, $147 million. Gasps echoed through the room. Victoria's face went white. 3 years ago, Quantum Edge was acquired by Goldman Capital Partners for $420 million. Ms. Bradford retained a 40% equity stake and operational control as CEO. Her personal payout from the acquisition was $168 million. My grandmother's pearls clattered to the floor. No one moved to pick them up. Ms. Bradford currently serves as CEO of Quantum Edge, which operates as a wholly owned subsidiary of Goldman Capital Partners. Her annual compensation is $850,000 plus performance bonuses averaging $2.1 million. Her equity stake is currently valued at approximately $95 million. She maintains additional investment accounts worth $17 million. Kane looked up. Sophie Bradford's current net worth is approximately $180 million. The silence was absolute. I could hear someone's watch ticking. My mother's mouth opened and closed without sound. Ms. Bradford has been profiled in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and Fortune magazine. Her algorithms have predicted 3 major market corrections with over 90% accuracy. 5 governments have approached her about licensing her technology. She was offered a position on the Federal Reserve Advisory Council, which she declined to focus on her company. Kane slid a folder toward me. "Ms. Bradford, your complete professional profile. Everything your family asked me to find." I didn't open it. I knew what was inside. Victoria found her voice first, shrill and panicked. "You've been lying to us for 11 years? "I never lied. I told you I worked in technology. I told you I was doing fine. Everything I said was true. I just didn't specify how fine I was doing." "You let us think you were poor," my mother shrieked. "You let us worry about you." "You assumed I was poor," I corrected. "I lived modestly because I work constantly and don't care about material displays. You judged my lifestyle without ever asking about my actual career." Harrison stood up, his lawyer brain trying to process. "This is insane. Sophie, why would you hide this from us?" "Because I wanted to know if you'd love me without my success," I said quietly. "And now I know you wouldn't." "Mr. Kane," my father's voice cut through the chaos. "Is this report complete?" Kane's expression became stone. No, sir. It's not. The room went very still. As I mentioned, I conducted comprehensive background checks on all relevant parties. That includes Sophie's immediate family. He picked up the second file. What I found requires reporting to federal authorities. My mother's face drained of color. What are you talking about? Victoria Bradford Whitmore and Bradley Whitmore. Tax fraud, underreporting of income, false business expense claims. Total tax evasion. Approximately $3.7 million over 8 years. Victoria started screaming. That's a lie. You can't prove. Kane slid a folder toward her. Tax returns showing reported income of $400,000 annually. Financial records showing actual spending of $2.3 million annually. Documented false business expense claims. Hidden rental income. Gift income not reported. It's all documented. He picked up the third file. Harrison Bradford. Embezzlement from client trust accounts. Over 6 years, you've redirected approximately $2.1 million from estates you managed as executor into accounts you control. Harrison lunged forward. You're insane. I'm an attorney. I would never. Wire transfers from client accounts to your personal accounts. Falsified estate accounting documents. Testimony from your firm's bookkeeper who became suspicious and kept copies of records. The evidence is comprehensive. Kane opened the final file. He looked at my parents, Amanda and Richard Bradford. This is the most extensive. 10 years of systematic tax evasion through unreported rental income and false business expense claims through a shell corporation. Total fraud. Approximately $1.4 million. My mother collapsed onto the couch. No, this is a mistake. This is some kind of revenge. Sophie, you put him up to this. I didn't, I said quietly. I asked Mr. Kane to be thorough. To find the truth. He found all of it. Mine and yours. Kane pulled out more documents. Property records showing rental properties reported as personal residences. Bank statements showing rental income not reported on tax returns. Business expense claims for personal vacations, cars, entertainment. Shell corporation documentation. It's all here. Combined, Kane said, his voice carrying across the silent room. The Bradford family, excluding Sophie, has committed financial crimes totaling approximately $7.2 million. I've already reported these findings to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division and the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. Patricia stood. That will be the federal agents. They're executing search warrants for financial records. My father stood up, shaking. Sophie, please. You have to stop this. We're family. Use your money, hire lawyers. You can fix this. No, I said simply. I'm your mother. My mother's voice cracked. You have to help me. You hired an investigator to prove I was a liar and a failure so you could humiliate me in front of everyone. You wanted to expose me as a fraud. You got your public reveal. You just didn't expect what would be revealed. Federal agents entered the house. 3 of them showing badges and warrants. Amanda Bradford, you're under arrest for tax evasion and fraud. They took her right there in front of everyone. Read her rights while she sobbed, mascara streaming down her face. Richard Bradford, you're under arrest for tax evasion and fraud. My father went quietly, his face gray. Victoria Whitmore, Bradley Whitmore, Harrison Bradford, you'll need to come with us for questioning. Victoria fainted. Actually fainted, collapsing onto the Persian rug in a pool of designer silk. Bradley caught her, his face paper white. Harrison tried to argue, his lawyer training kicking in, but the agents weren't interested. They took them all. The house cleared in minutes. Extended family fled like roaches when lights turn on. Friends vanished. People who'd gathered to watch my humiliation couldn't get out fast enough. Within 30 minutes, the house was empty except for me, Patricia, and Kane. I stood in the living room where I'd spent 15 Christmases being dismissed, underestimated, and treated like a failure. Miss Bradford, Kane said quietly, are you all right? I'm fine. Thank you for your thoroughness. For what it's worth, I'm sorry it turned out this way. Don't be. They made their choices. I just stopped protecting them from the consequences. Patricia touched my arm. Sophie, we should go. I looked around the townhouse one last time. For stories of old money and older secrets. Beautiful furniture, expensive art, family photos that now felt like evidence in a case about people who loved status more than truth. Yes, I said. Let's go. The legal proceedings moved with the efficiency of federal prosecution. My parents were charged with 10 counts of tax evasion, fraud, and false statements. Bail was set at $500,000 each. They made bail using the townhouse as collateral, but the house was later seized as part of asset forfeiture. Victoria and Bradley faced 8 counts of tax fraud. Their mansion was seized, their assets frozen. Victoria's charity board positions were immediately revoked. Bradley's trust fund was frozen pending investigation. Harrison faced the worst charges: embezzlement, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. He was disbarred within 60 days. His law firm fired him immediately and cooperated fully with prosecutors to avoid being implicated. The trials took 18 months. All of them pleaded guilty eventually. The evidence was too overwhelming. My parents. 5 years in federal prison each, full restitution, permanent criminal records. They lost the townhouse, their investments, everything. They were released after 3 years for good behavior. Victoria and Bradley, 4 years each. They divorced during sentencing. Victoria lost custody of her children. They went to Bradley's parents. She emerged from prison to find she had no social standing, no friends, no money. Harrison, 7 years. His wife divorced him within the first year. He lost his law license permanently, his home, his reputation. The extended family fractured completely. Some tried to maintain relationships with me, apologizing for how I'd been treated. Most just disappeared, embarrassed by the scandal. I accepted the apologies that felt genuine. Because some of them truly hadn't known. 6 months after the arrests, I stood in my office at Quantum Edge, looking out at San Francisco Bay. Dev knocked on my door. "You have a visitor. Says she's your grandmother." Grandma Helen. My father's mother, the only family member who'd ever seemed to see me clearly. "Sophie," she said when she entered. She looked older, tired. "I know you probably don't want to see anyone from the family. You never participated in how they treated me. I should have stopped it. I'm sorry I didn't." She sat down heavily. "I came to tell you something. Your grandfather left you money, $500,000. It's been in a trust, payable when you turned 40. But I'm the trustee and I'm releasing it early. Grandma, I don't need. I know you don't need it. But he wanted you to have it. He always said you were the only one with any sense." She smiled sadly. "He'd be proud of what you built. And he'd be ashamed of the rest of them." I accepted the inheritance. Not because I needed it, but because it mattered that someone had believed in me. 3 years after that Christmas, I sat in a federal courtroom watching my parents' release hearing. They'd served their time, made their restitution payments, attended all required counseling. They looked older. Diminished. My mother's designer clothes were gone, replaced by Goodwill finds. My father's confident bearing had collapsed into something that looked like permanent shame. They saw me in the courtroom. My mother started crying. My father looked away. After the hearing, my mother approached me in the hallway. "Sophie, please. Can we talk?" "About what?" "I want to apologize. Your father and we've had a lot of time to think about what we did. How we treated you. How we valued all the wrong things. And you were right. About everything. We loved the idea of success more than we loved you. We chose status over ethics. We taught our children that appearances mattered more than integrity." He was crying openly now. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." It was the apology I'd waited 15 years to hear. It didn't fix anything, but it mattered. "What will you do now?" I asked. "We got jobs. Your father works at a hardware store. I work at a library. We have a small apartment. We're learning to live within our means." She laughed bitterly. "Learning to be the kind of people we should have been all along. That's good. Can we try? To have a relationship? Not about money. Just as family?" I thought about it for a long moment. "Maybe. Eventually. With boundaries. And only if you're genuinely different, not just sorry you got caught. We are different. Prison changes you. Losing everything changes you." It's been 5 years now. I have a cautious relationship with my parents. They've never asked me for money. They came to Maxteca's IPO celebration and cried with pride. They're learning about my actual life, not the fiction they'd invented. They'll never recover financially. They're working class now, in their 60s with criminal records. That's the consequence of their choices. Victoria and I don't speak. She blames me for her prison sentence, her divorce, losing her children. She'll never understand that I didn't destroy her. Her own choices did that. Harrison reached out once, asking for a loan to start over. I declined. He hasn't contacted me since. Quantum Edge went public 2 years ago. Current valuation, $2.8 billion. My personal net worth is now approximately $890 million. I've been featured in every major business publication. I speak at conferences globally. I'm exactly as successful as I always was. Now just public about it. I established a foundation for financial literacy education. $50 million endowment to teach ethics, accountability, and the difference between wealth and worth. The irony isn't lost on me. Last week I got a letter from my mother. Not asking for anything. Just telling me she was proud of me. That she wished she'd seen me clearly years ago. That she was grateful I'd forced the truth into the light, even though it destroyed everything. You saved us, she wrote. From ourselves. From becoming worse than we already were. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. Maybe she's right. Maybe forcing people to face consequences is a gift, not cruelty. I learned that family is a privilege that must be earned through actions, not assumed through blood. That success without integrity is just fraud with better marketing. That the people who love you when you have nothing are the only ones who matter when you have everything. My real family is Dev and Emma and the team we built together. My family is the people who believed in my ideas when they were just code on a screen. My family is chosen, not assigned. My biological family chose status over truth, chose fraud over honesty, chose to investigate me rather than celebrate me. Those were their choices. I chose to let them face the natural consequences. That was mine. And I've never regretted it for a single second. If you've ever had to walk away to save yourself, tell me your story in the comments. Does any of this feel familiar? What would you have done? Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself when the people who should support you become the people you need protecting from. Because you're not responsible for being smaller to make others feel bigger. You're not obligated to hide your light to protect people who'd rather see you in darkness. Sometimes the best thing you can do for toxic family is let them face exactly what they've created. You are not the villain for refusing to be the victim.